Hi friends, today we are going to talk about semiconductor diodes. Even the word semiconductor tells you the meaning of the word semiconductor, which means semiconductors are materials having conductivity between conductors and non-conductors. So here is the schematic symbol of a p-n junction diode. Here base of the horizontal triangle is called as anode, which is nothing but the positive terminal of p-n junction diode, and apex of that horizontal triangle is called as cathode, which is nothing but negative terminal of p-n junction diode. If you purchase a p-n junction diode, there will be a slight silver line at one particular terminal, that is called as cathode terminal. Okay, so next is classification of semiconductor. Semiconductors are classified into two: intrinsic semiconductor and extrinsic semiconductor. The word intrinsic semiconductor means something which occurs naturally. So intrinsic semiconductors are always pure without any impurity. Extrinsic semiconductor means something which does not occurs naturally, which may be affected something externally. That is why it is called as extrinsic semiconductors. If we add some impurities in intrinsic semiconductors, it is called as extrinsic semiconductors. So extrinsic semiconductors are further classified into two: n-type semiconductors and p-type semiconductors. So we can add two types of impurities. One is pentavalent impurities and trivalent impurities. If you add pentavalent impurities, for example phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, you will attain n-type semiconductor. As pentavalent impurities have 5 valence electrons, it will give excess free moving electron to the intrinsic semiconductor. So that is why it is called as n-type semiconductor. N-type semiconductors have electrons as majority carriers. If you add trivalent impurities like aluminum, boron and gallium to intrinsic semiconductor, it is called as p-type semiconductor. In p-type semiconductor, holes are majority carriers. Since the trivalent impurities have 3 valence electrons, there will be one vacant position. Okay, even a small amount of trivalent impurities will have lots of very large number of atoms. So it will create millions and millions of holes to the intrinsic semiconductor. So that is why it is called as extrinsic semiconductor. Why we are adding impurity to intrinsic semiconductor? Why we cannot use the intrinsic semiconductor as such? The reason is, in intrinsic semiconductor, conductivity is going to be very less. Okay, to improve the conductivity of semiconductor, we are adding impurity. Comparing with the extrinsic, conductivity of impurities, intrinsic is very much lesser. Okay, also in some places we are using intrinsic semiconductors like manufacturing of ICs and all, but in many cases mostly we use extrinsic semiconductors alone. So this is the very important factor which decides the conductivity of intrinsic semiconductor. Energy band concepts. There are two types of energy bands. One is valence band and the conduction band. Valence band is nothing but energy level of valence electrons, outermost shell of electrons, outermost shell of atoms. Okay, conduction band is an energy band which any atom which any electron should attain to make that particular material as conductor. Okay, if any electron moves from valence band to conduction band, then that electron can move freely. It attains such energy to move freely in that material to make it as a conductor, and thus current flows. Okay, Fermi level means maximum level of energy of an electron at absolute zero temperature. Okay, so in intrinsic semiconductor, this is what the condition is. Always the Fermi level will has to be at the middle of energy gap, that is, it has to be in between valence band and conduction band. In case of extrinsic semiconductor, that is doped semiconductors, for n-type extrinsic semiconductor, this Fermi level has to be near conduction band, and for p-type semiconductor, this Fermi level has to be near valence band. So next is the conductivity of semiconductor. We all know that conductivity means current flowing through a material per unit cross sectional area. So we can express mathematically the conductivity as I by A. We all know that current is nothing but rate of flow of charges. So instead of I, we can substitute Q by T. Okay, and Q is nothing but charges. So instead of Q, we can substitute N into E. N is nothing but total number of electrons. Okay, and E is nothing but charge of electrons or holes. If you are calculating conductivity of electron, we can consider N as total number of electrons and E as charge of electrons. If you are calculating conductivity of holes, we can consider N as total number of holes and E as charges of holes, and L is nothing but length of the conductor. So in J, multiply and divide by L, that is length of the conductor. Instead of capital N by A into L, we can substitute small n. Okay, instead of capital N by A into L, we can substitute N. N is nothing but charge concentration. What is charge concentration? Total number of electrons per unit volume. Okay, so what are all remaining? N, E, L by T. Okay, so L by T, instead of L by T, we can substitute drift velocity. Velocity means rate of change of distance. L by T, we can take it as d by T, so which is nothing but drift velocity. So why we are calling it as drift velocity? Why not just velocity? Just velocity means velocity of a particular thing which moves in a particular direction, then only we call that as a velocity, right? Drift velocity means resultant velocity of a particular thing which moves in random directions with random velocities. Okay, since we are talking about electrons and holes, they do not travel in particular direction with a particular speed. They change their direction when they collide with their colleague atoms, and while colliding they change their velocity itself, right? That is why we are talking about drift velocity. Drift velocity is a resultant velocity of a randomly moving particle in random velocities. That is why it is called as drift velocity. Okay, so over here the total conductivity is nothing but sum of conductivity of hole as well as electron. Why we are adding the conductivity of holes and electrons? Because they both are having same polarity, right? In case of electrons, current which is produced due to the motion of electron is always opposite in direction. At the same time, current due to holes is always at the same direction of motion of holes. So anyway, whatever the current may be, it is due to electron or hole, it is going to be in the same direction. So that is why they both are having same polarity, so we can add it. Okay, so conductivity is nothing but product of electron concentration and charge of electron and drift velocity of electron, and the conductivity of holes is nothing but product of hole concentration, charge of hole and drift velocity of hole. So we can substitute drift velocity as product of mobility and electric field. Taking E as common, we can consider product of hole, mobility as well as charge of that particular electron or hole as conductivity. So this is what the mathematical expression or derivation of conductivity of semiconductors. Next, types of current in semiconductor. There are two types of current in semiconductors. One is diffusion current and the other one is drift current. Diffusion current always caused because of non-uniform concentration of charges. How this non-uniform concentration occurs is due to the doping. So whenever it is just like the concept of reverse osmosis, whenever there is high concentration, it always moves from high concentration to low concentration. Like that, whenever there is a non-uniformity, there will always be some movement to make that non-uniformity into a uniform thing. That is the law of nature. So this diffusion current is because of this law of nature, diffusion to make non-uniformity into uniformity. So expression for this diffusion current is minus q into d rho by dx. This d rho by dx is nothing but rate of change of concentration, and d is nothing but diffusion coefficient, and q is nothing but charges. Next one is a drift current. See, the only difference between this diffusion current and drift current is this diffusion current does not need any external force or external electric field. And this drift current needs some external force and external electric field. So this drift current's expression is what we have seen in previous slide. Okay. So next is biasing of p-n junction diode. We have two types of biasing. One is forward biasing and reverse biasing. In case of forward biasing, we have to connect p junction to positive terminal and n to negative terminal. So p to positive terminal and n to negative terminal to forward bias the p-n junction diode. If we connect p to the positive terminal, the majority carriers, that is electrons in n region, will keep on moving towards the positive terminal, and when we connect n region to the negative terminal, the majority carriers of p region, that is holes, will start to move towards negative terminal. In such way, this p-n junction diode will get turned on, and it will act as a closed switch. And in case of reverse biasing, this n region is connected with the positive and p region will be connected with the negative. So during this reverse biasing, all the majority carriers, that is of n region, that is the electrons, will move away from the depletion region, and all the majority carriers of p region, that is holes, will move away from the depletion region. So when we reverse bias the p-n junction diode, the depletion region will keep on grows, width of depletion region will keep on grows, and since there will not be any movement of carriers or motion of carriers from one region to another region, the p-n junction diode is considered as a open circuit. It is turned off. So in most of the time, diodes are used in forward bias only. If it is reverse bias, which means that the diode is in open circuit condition. So this is the VI characteristics of diode. To the right hand side of the graph, voltage is positive, and to the left hand side of the graph, voltage is negative, and to the top of the graph, that is above the x axis, it is current which is positive, and below the x axis the current is negative. Since in forward bias condition, the diode is turned on, so the flow of current is more. That is why range of current above x axis is considered at milliamps, and below the x axis during open circuit, it doesn't mean like there will not be any current flow during reverse bias of p-n junction diode. Okay, during reverse bias of p-n junction diode, still there will be some current flow. You can ask, in reverse bias we consider p-n junction as open circuit, then how can there be current flow during reverse bias of p-n junction diode? Still there will be some movement of carriers called minority carriers. So current due to this minority carriers are called as reverse bias current, reverse bias saturation current. Okay, so that is why this reverse saturation current are very less comparing with the forward bias current. That is why the range of y axis below x axis is microamps, since the level of this reverse bias current is very much lesser. Okay, the very important, one another important thing that you need to look upon in this graph is knee voltage. Knee voltage is nothing but the breakdown voltage of a forward biased condition. When you need to forward bias the p-n junction diode, you have to give the applied voltage more than this knee voltage, which is the triggering point voltage. So it depends on the material of semiconductor. If it is germanium, the knee voltage is going to be 0.3 volt, and if it is silicon, the knee voltage is going to be 0.7 volt. Okay, and at the same time there is one another important voltage that is called as reverse breakdown voltage, which is minus 50 volt for germanium and minus 75 volt for silicon. When your this reverse breakdown voltage is nothing but maximum voltage, maximum reverse biasing voltage that you can give to the diode. More than that you cannot give. Okay, so knee voltage is nothing but minimum forward bias voltage to turn on the diode, and reverse breakdown voltage is maximum reverse biasing voltage to keep it turned off. After knee voltage, till knee voltage, your current through the diode is going to be linearly increasing. After knee voltage, till knee voltage, current through the diode is going to be exponentially increasing, and after knee voltage it is going to be linearly increasing. So this is what all the things about VA characteristics of diode. And temperature effect on VA characteristics of diode. Whenever you increase the temperature, your knee voltage will get reduced, and also at the same time the reverse breakdown voltage also gets reduced. As you can see, during 25 degrees Celsius the knee voltage is somewhat larger when comparing with the knee voltage at 75 degrees Celsius. This is same in case of this reverse breakdown voltage also. At 75 degrees Celsius the reverse breakdown voltage is somewhat greater. So next is capacitance. There are two types of capacitance: diffusion capacitance and transition capacitance. So diffusion capacitance occurs during forward biased conditions, and transition capacitance occurs during reverse biased conditions. Before going for diffusion capacitance, let us discuss about transition capacitance, which is very much easier for understanding. Transition capacitance occurs during reverse biased conditions, right? So as I have already told, during reverse biased conditions, electrons accumulate, moves away from the negative terminal, and holes move away from the positive terminals, which means two majority carriers are getting accumulated at the two extreme points of p-n junction diode, leaving depletion region at the middle, which seems like the capacitor, right? At both ends there will be a metallic conducting plates, and at the middle there will be a dielectric, which is nothing but, so that is why this reverse biased condition acts as a transition capacitance, right? So always this transition capacitance is due to majority carriers in p region and n region, and the mathematical expression of transition capacitance is CT is equal to epsilon A by W. W is nothing but width of depletion region. In normal capacitance, you guys could have studied in 12th standard. In normal capacitance, the expression is epsilon A by D. D is nothing but the distance between the two metallic plates, like that. Here the two metallic plates are nothing but majority carriers, that is electrons and holes. So W is nothing but width of depletion region. Next is diffusion capacitance. And one more thing is, during reverse bias condition there will be diffusion capacitance also due to minority carriers, but it is somewhat very much negligible. Since the minority carriers are lesser, capacitance due to that minority carriers is also lesser, so it is negligible. Next one is diffusion capacitance. Diffusion capacitance occurs only during forward biased condition. As I have already told, during forward biased condition, majority carriers, that is holes from P region, reaches N region, and the majority carriers, that is N, reaches that is electrons from N region to P region. Okay, when this majority carriers, that is holes, reaches N region, it will become minority carriers, and at the same time electrons, that is majority carriers, from N region reaches P region, that electrons in P region will become minority carriers. These majority carriers, before recombination in their cross region, they will get accumulated near the depletion region. Okay, so what will happen between the depletion region, holes from P region accumulates in N region, and holes from electrons from N region accumulates near depletion region of P region. So at that time the capacitance occurs, that is diffusion capacitance. That is why diffusion capacitance are always because of minority charge carriers, and since it is minority charge carriers, it is always in the range of nanofarad to microfarad. And we all know that capacitance is inversely proportional with distance between the metallic conducting plates, like that this transition capacitance as well as this diffusion capacitance is inversely proportional to width of depletion region, and the mathematical expression for diffusion capacitance is dq by dV. dq is nothing but change of minority carriers charge concentration. Next is a diode current equation. This diode current equation is expressed as I is equal to Is into e power V by eta Vt minus 1. Small I is nothing but diode current. Capital Is is diode reverse saturation current at room temperature. This diode reverse saturation current I have already told, which is because of minority carriers. And capital V is nothing but external voltage applied across the two terminals of diode, and eta is nothing but constant, which is 1 for germanium and 2 for silicon. Vt is nothing but voltage equivalent of temperature, which we can also call it as thermal voltage. Okay, so if we apply external voltage more than 1 volt, in substituting all these values in this diode current equation, you will attain I is equal to Is into e power 40 volt for germanium, and for silicon you will attain Is into e power 20 volt, right. This equation itself tells you that the diode current is going to be exponentially increasing. Okay, so this is in the case of forward bias. In the case of reverse bias, if we apply external voltage which is very greater than this temperature equivalent voltage, we can neglect that exponential term, right. So there will be only minus 1. So minus 1 into Is is nothing but minus Is. Okay, so whatever the current that flows in the diode at this condition is nothing but diode reverse saturation current. Next is the application of diode. Diode can be used in various circuits like clipper. As a clipper we can use diode, as a clamper we can use diode, as a rectifier we can use diode, A rectifier means it converts AC into DC. Clipper means it clips some particular part of a signal. Okay, over here the diode is used as a positive clipper. Positive clipper means it clips major portion of positive side of the signal. As we all know, for silicon the new voltage is 0.7. So in order to turn on the silicon PN junction diode, the voltage that you have to apply should be more than 0.7 volt. Okay, so since I have connected the PN junction diode inversely, that is as from the circuit you can understand that if 0.7, if your input voltage is more than 0.7 volt, your diode starts to conduct, which means it bypasses the current flowing through the load. It will not allow the input signal to supply your output. Okay, and if your voltage is below 0.7, it will get turned off. If the diode turned off means what? The input does not supply diode, it will start to supply the load. Thus the positive signal has been clipped. In order to use this diode as negative clipper, just you have to invert the connection of the diode. Your N junction has to be connected with resistor and P junction has to be connected with negative terminal of source voltage, so that we can use it as a negative clipper. Next is we can use the diode as a clamper. So clamper circuit is very much important. Which shifts whatever signal that you give with some DC level. That is what the clamper circuit means. So if suppose I am considering an input signal of magnitude Vm, so this clamper circuit is composed of a capacitor, diode and resistor. You have to keep on looking on the operation of capacitor itself, so that you can easily understand the operation of clamper. Okay, so to understand the operation of clamper, for first positive half cycle, Vc is considered as 0. Why? Because during first positive half cycle the diode is reverse biased. Okay, your top terminal is going to be positive and the bottom terminal is going to be negative. Since positive is connected with N and negative is connected with P, your diode is going to be reverse biased during first positive half cycle, and thus the capacitor won't get charged. When your capacitor will get charged? Only when your diode is forward biased, then only your diode will get some current. Okay, so during negative half cycle your diode is forward biased and the capacitor will get charged till the maximum peak value of your input voltage, which is nothing but Vm. So capacitor voltage is Vm. Okay, so for the second positive half cycle, what will happen? You have to think of like the capacitor is going to discharge. So that is what one of the necessary condition for a clamper, which is the time constant of this circuit has to be 10 times more than the time period of your input signal. Okay, so what will be the time constant of this circuit? RC. your designing has to be in such a way that the time constant has to be 10 times more than the time period, so that for every cycle the capacitor won't charge and discharge. Once it gets charged, it will maintain that voltage. Okay, so once it gets charged till peak of the input signal, it will maintain it. So during second positive half cycle, the KVL, when you apply KVL in this circuit, VI minus VC minus V0, that is what is KVL? Input voltage is equal to sum of voltage drop across the circuit. Here only two drops, one is voltage across the capacitor and the output voltage. So V0 is equal to Vm plus Vi. Keeping output voltage in left side and bringing the input voltage and capacitance voltage to the right side, V0 is equal to sum of capacitance voltage and input voltage. Since output voltage is sum of capacitance voltage and input voltage, when input voltage is 0, output voltage will be Vm, since capacitor has been charged till Vm. When input voltage is Vm, output voltage is equal to 2Vm, right? Thus the input voltage has been clamped to a DC level. So next one is Zener diode. This is what the schematic symbol of a Zener diode with its picture. So as I said, when you buy the Zener diode, you will have a small dark line at one particular terminal that is called as cathode, just like PN junction diode. Zener diode is nothing but a PN junction diode only, but during manufacturing it is made specifically with some impurities, high impurity. If you add high impurities in PN junction diode, that is called as Zener diode. So Zener diode is nothing but highly doped PN junction diode. So usually we operate PN junction diode in forward bias voltage, right? But in case of Zener diode, we usually operate it in reverse biased voltage. Since at reverse biased voltage only the Zener breakdown occurs. In this VI characteristics of Zener diode voltage, you can easily understand the operation of Zener voltage, Zener diode. So at this particular point, that is at this particular point, the reverse voltage is going to be equal to the Zener voltage. Zener voltage means the voltage at which Zener breakdown occurs. There is two types of breakdown. One is avalanche breakdown and the other one is Zener breakdown. The avalanche breakdown is nothing but a free electron. When it collides with an atom, it gives another free electron, and these two free electrons collide with two other atoms, will gives you two more free electrons, and these four free electrons will collide with four other atoms. So in that way the free electrons will keep on increasing, thus leads to the conductivity. That is called as avalanche breakdown, conductivity due to avalanche breakdown. There is one other breakdown called Zener breakdown. This Zener breakdown is because of the voltage applied externally to the Zener diode. There will be lots of minority carriers, right? If we keep on increasing the reverse voltage, this minority carriers will attain some energy and they start to agitate and they start to conduct. They will attain some kinetic energy to move freely to create flow of charges. That is Zener breakdown. So always avalanche breakdown occurs at greater voltage comparing with Zener breakdown. The Zener breakdown is very sharp and it leads large amount of current, but it seals the voltage. Whatever the input voltage that you apply, your Zener voltage will be constant irrespective of the flow of current. That is why we use Zener diode as voltage regulator. So this is what the circuit of a Zener diode working as a voltage regulator. While designing the Zener diode as voltage regulator, two things you have to keep in mind. One is RS minimum and the other one is RS maximum. In order to find RS minimum, you have to consider maximum current is flowing to the load, so that minimum current is flowing through the Zener diode. And where to find this parameter IZ minimum? It has to be in the data sheet. Since maximum current is flowing through the load, we have to find the drop between the input voltage and the Zener voltage, because that drop is nothing but voltage across the resistor, and divided with source current, you will get that resistance. And the maximum resistance, during that time you have to consider the load is getting minimum current. Okay, so here also the same, you have to find the drop between input voltage and Zener voltage, and dividing it with the source current, considering minimum current is flowing to the load, you can find the RS max. In next video lecture we shall discuss lots of problems and previous year gate questions. Thank you.